Why, yes, I believe we shall.
Oh, I got a live one here.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Shane Plays Geek Talk, a journey into the things we love. And I'm joined today by two returning guests. They're coming on the show so often, they're showing up so often, I'm eventually going to have to put them on payroll. And frantic disclaimer, Shane Plays Geek Talk has no payroll. But if it did, you guys might qualify.
Actually, that's a binding contract now.
Is it? Oh, darn.
There's no getting out.
So now I always have to report a loss. So anyway, joining us again, no strangers to the show, are Russ Morrissey, a.k.a. Morris, or Morris, a.k.a. Russ, and of Ian World, or Russ's unofficial RPG news. Is that right? Is that full?
No, but we'll go with that.
Okay.
Russ's
Russ's
unofficial RPG news talk.
news talk. Well, but I'm talking about the website.
Oh.
But then there's also a podcast, and a lot of people still know it by Ian World. And then that other voice you heard is Mike Myler, who is also no stranger to the show. Mike's been on talking about Mist of Akuma,
Yes.
which is one of his. It's a really cool 5e setting, and then also Vascavia, which is another cool 5e setting, and then he works diligently with Russ at the Ian World RPG news site, and he has a column where he often will take real world or historical fictional figures, etc., and make D&D stats out of them in 5e. And actually, if this sounds familiar to my listeners, about a year and a half ago, not quite, in April 2019, before I ever even knew the subject of what we're talking about today, which I'll get to in a second, my own rambling way, is we talked about Mike's process in how he takes a historical or fictional figure and converts them to 5e. And there's an entire column on Ian World about that, and then Mike has his own website with that stuff on there. And in that episode, he took us through the process of how he did Genghis Khan, which was really interesting. Which leads us, pardon me, into the topic of today's show, which is an entire book, a book no less, of really cool conversions of historical and mythical and fictional figures to 5e called, and I'll throw the potato to Russ. What's it called, Russ?
It is called Mythological Figures and Maleficent Monsters.
Maleficent Monsters.
Dun, dun,
Okay,
dun.
so dun dun dun. So Mythological Figures and Maleficent Monsters is going to be the main topic of today. It is not only is it a book, but in the typical way that we bend the laws of space-time, it's also a Kickstarter. So we will be discussing the Kickstarter today. I have been fortunate enough. I was sent a preview copy of this book. I've also heard a couple of interviews about it already. And this, in my opinion, this really is a book. I'm not just having Russ and Mike on because I know them and they've been on the show before. This is a book I think everybody that runs 5e should have in their library. I really think so, because it's got such a wide range of cool NPCs and monsters. I mean, this thing has cryptids in it, like the Chupacabra, to historical figures like George Washington, to what's that lady's name? O'Malley?
Grace O'Malley.
Oh, it's the book's worth it for her story alone.
One of 4 lady pirates in the book.
Yeah, there's pirates. We'll go through the table of contents here in a little bit, but there's, you got Baba Yaga, you got Cthulhu, you've got, it runs the gamut. I just wanted to say gamut. It runs the gamut. And if you hear the little, the noise in the background, that is a guest on Russ's podcast. That's Hudson. So give us a Hudson update, Russ.
Well, Hudson. Well, now I've confiscated the squeakiest toy in the world from him, so that we could actually start recording, because that was not going to work. He's now standing at the door, staring at the door, which means partway through this podcast, he's going to start jumping up at that door, force me to go and open it, look out through the door, decide he doesn't want to go out after all. Oh, he's over here now. Here he is. Say hello, Hudson.
He's a big, happy... I don't even...
Say
Is he
hello.
a mixed breed? Is he a full breed? Is he a full lab? What is he?
No, he's half border collie and he is half golden retriever.
Golden retriever, for some reason. He's a very happy yet rambunctious puppy.
And he eats sofas.
He eats sofas, and I like to refer to him as the ASBOdog because the pub has asked him to leave at least once, right?
No, they've never asked him to leave. No. The pub around the corner from us is like...
Oh, they call him ASBOdog.
They call him ASBOdog, but they're super, super dog friendly. They got dogs themselves, and they love dogs.
Yeah.
Like the pub has got dog toys in there, bowls of water for the dogs, and they give free dog meals. You know, like you go in there for lunch.
Right.
They'll do a dog version of it in a dog bowl.
Nice. Yeah, that's great. And Hudson has been... I've watched Hudson grow since he was a little puppy. And the only thing that's changed about his rambunctiousness and his eager... I don't know. I don't want to say stupidity. What do you want to call it? Eager willfulness?
Enthusiasm.
His enthusiasm.
Shane called you stupid. He says as he's spinning round after his own tail.
I just want to say you've called him worse on Facebook, and we'll leave it at that. Okay, that's the Hudson update. But if you ever listen to Russ's podcast, the Morris's unofficial RPG News Talk podcast, which I highly recommend, you will often be graced with Hudson. And the Morris's unofficial RPG News Talk podcast, it's a great podcast. As Russ will often say, and I agree with him, I don't know of another one. It's the only podcast out there that covers a wide variety of RPG news, not just like D&D news or this news. It tries to cover it all, and then they'll usually have an interesting guest. And then they have amazing sketches, sometimes written by me, and they have our most favorite game in all the world, Guess the Kickstarter, just by the name. So there we go.
I would add that though you call EN World an unofficial RPG news site, I really think it's the premier RPG news site.
I've told him that before
man.
too. Yeah, I've told him that before too. I mean, I don't know of a bigger one.
The reason it's called unofficial. Do you remember Eric Noah's original site?
No, man. I was like 13 or something. Like, I don't.
You can still read at 13.
I had other things to do.
God, I was 13. I can't
Let's
read.
not talk about what he was doing at 13. Let's focus on the now.
Anyway, so Eric Noah's site back in 1999 was called Eric Noah's Unofficial D&D 3rd Edition News, and that was just before D&D 3E came out. So it's kind of a little tribute to that site. So it's Morris's unofficial tabletop RPG news. So that's all the unofficial means. It's a little wink,
homage.
nod. Yeah,
A little homage to the past.
Yeah.
So, and oh, how it has grown. So, all right. Well, let's move on into the main. Well, not the main. I got a couple of news items I want to hit here. Speaking of news, before I do that, or other than mythological figures and Maleficent Monsters, is there anything else either of you guys want to promote right now, or mention a website or anything? I'll start with you, Mike. Mike's shaking his head. How about you, Russ?
You could check out my Awfully Cheerful engine, which is a action comedy rules light RPG, which is in playtest right now. Public playtest.
Is it named after the Seventh Doctor's companion, Ace?
Well, not deliberately so, but yes, it does share the same initials.
Yeah. No, I love the Awfully Cheerful engine. I'd like to do a show just on that. So feel free to come back on for that, Russ, at your convenience. But
you've had him on to talk about Judgment or the Judge Dredd RPG before, right?
Absolutely.
Okay,
yeah.
never mind.
Yeah, I think EN World is doing a lot of really cool stuff in the RPG space. So I'm happy to promote everything they're doing. So Ace is it's kind of, I mean, it's not a direct copy or anything like that, but it feels like, a lot of people like to say spiritual successor, I'm using air quotes, to the old like West End Games Ghostbusters system. But it's multi-genre, it could be all kinds of different types of stories. And each one will be, each setting or adventure, Morris plans to release like a little comic book. And I think that's a really neat idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's not actually a comic book. It's just the same size as a comic book.
Same size,
yeah. It's just that kind of paper format and that size.
But it sounds fun. And, I'm a big fan of the Wine system, which powers Judge Dredd and others, and the Simply Six and all that. So I'm looking forward to checking out Awfully Cheerful Engine. And do you not have a playtest going on for that right now?
Yeah, the playtest reports are rolling in as we speak.
Ta-da-da!
And they've all been really good. Everyone's, because one of the playtest questions is, I put it in there. How much did you laugh on a scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah, good.
Because it's important to me in this game, because it's a light-hearted action comedy game. If you played it and you didn't laugh, something went wrong. Something went wrong, and everyone's saying like 10 out of 10.
Right.
We laughed all the way through.
Well, we accidentally did that. I remember I sent you a report on our Judge Dredd adventure. That actually turned into a laugh where they arrested the little 8-year-old kid because he was hugging the judges. So they were they arrested him for, violent assault and all this other stuff. So they put Granny in an ISO cube for jaywalking. So anyway, it's just the way we had fun.
It's just the way people, as soon as they play Judge Dredd, as soon as they play a judge, they suddenly become the worst fascists the world ever saw.
Well, but isn't that kind of what Judge
It's
Dredd
a
is about?
parody.
Yeah, I know.
It's a warning. It's not. It's not a recommendation. It's.
I probably haven't laughed that hard playing a game since Paranoia in the 80s. We had a really good time. And then we played the Spirits of Manhattan, which is an homage to Ghostbusters using the Wine engine. And that was a lot of fun too. We had terrific fun with that. But anyway, okay. So moving on, got a couple of news items here. And the first one, actually, I'm doing this to kill two birds with one stone. One, this interests me, but two, I want to highlight EN World if people don't know about it. So the link in the show notes will go to EN World. But I'm really fascinated by this Monty Cook's Numenera setting comes to 5e with Beneath the Monolith. And there's two reasons, or a couple of reasons why this interests me. One is I've never been shy about saying that I love Numenera as a setting. It's basically you take, was it Clark's law that any technology sufficiently advanced is indistinguishable from magic, and they built an entire world and setting around that because 9 amazing civilizations have risen, or 8 have risen and fallen, and now you're in the 9th world, and you have 8 civilizations before you have left their technology that is indistinguishable from magic.
Yeah, because you don't understand how it works. So.
Yeah, and it's just fascinating, and it's weird and cool, and I like the Numenera system as well. But to get people, as we know, the majority of players are on Pathfinder or D&D. I should probably say D&D or Pathfinder. And then you have a pie cut out of the chart that is playing other stuff. So there's a lot of people that would not get exposed to the wonderful weirdness and coolness of Numenera. So I like that they've released this Beneath the Monolith book. And it's, as I understand, it's already available. You can already order it. It's not a Kickstarter or anything like that. Like, you can go to the website and order it right now. But my question is, and you guys may or may not know, like the press copy or whatever said something like, now you can take your mage to Numenera, and the classes in D&D don't really fit the classes in Numenera, like maybe the rogue and the fighter or something like that. So does anybody happen to know, do they have 5e analogs for the Numenera archetypes?
I don't know, but looking at the same text you're looking at, it says, take your wizard, ranger, and rogue to the Amber Monolith. But the original Numenera has basically 3 class type things, doesn't it?
Pretty much, yeah.
Are they
the way
analogous rogue?
Yeah, they have like a fighter analog. They have kind of a mage that uses technology like magic. They have like a warrior, and then they have kind of a rogue that's also kind of like almost like a decker. So the way Numenera works and I'm probably getting it wrong because it's been a while since I've actually cracked the book open and played it. But so if I just got something wrong, send your hate mail to Russ, not me. Or Mike.
Send it to Mike. Always send it to Mike.
Send it to Mike. But you say, I'm a blank who blanks. So you would say like a glaive is a warrior. So you would say like I'm a aggressive warrior who adventures or something like that. And you build your character it's almost like Mad Libs where you fill in the and then that gives you your character concept and you go from there. But anyway, I think it's really neat. But yeah, like a cleric or a mage, anything that's using arcane or divine.
I wonder if it's archetypes.
Yeah.
So the wizard, ranger, and rogue each have an archetype which maps to those three things that you just mentioned.
Possible.
Maybe.
Yeah, because he said take your this, that, or the other.
Yeah.
Those
Maybe that's just a
classes.
guess. I don't know. I haven't looked at it.
Who knows? Maybe. Yeah, I was just curious if you guys knew. But I really can't. Numenera is one of those settings and the world building and everything. I recommend buying like the core rulebook just to read about the lore. I mean, it's really interesting. And I can't give Monty Cook and his gang over there enough props on what they've done. So, all right. One other quick news item that's not related to D&D, but it's full of geekiness. Are either of you fans of The Far Side by Gary Larson?
Hell yes.
That comic strip. Okay. He's kind of back. I just saw this. The Verge put out an article, but he's got a website called The Far Side. And on that, he runs classic Far Side strips, but he's also like fallen in love with a digital tablet for doing his art. And so now he's putting out experimental cartoons that are in the vein of the Far Side. There's like 3 of them up there right now. And he's very clear to say, I'm not doing this daily, but I'll post it so if you're a big fan of the Far Side, which I am, sounds like Mike is as well, it will be in the show notes, or just go to thefarside.com. And you will see all the goodness that's there. So I was very, very excited to see that. I think the only thing that could excite me more these days if Bill Watterson started doing Calvin and Hobbes again. But because Berkeley Breathe It is doing Bloom County again, and now we've got a little bit of Far Side. I'd love to get the trifecta and get
Calvin and Hobbes.
Calvin and Hobbes. There you go. The days are just packed. Okay, moving right along. Let's get into Mythological Figures and Maleficent Monsters for 5th edition. I'm going to read the intro from the Kickstarter. The Kickstarter is going on right now, folks. You can get a PDF or you can get a hard copy. There's also stretch goals that are going out during the Kickstarter as soon as the stretch goal is hit.
I know, totally weird, right?
Yeah. Russ was like, some people call me mad. It's like, mad, I tell you, mad. You did that with a previous Kickstarter too. So here's the thing. Ian World or Ian Publishing, when Russ and Company run a Kickstarter, the product's already finished. They don't say, hey, give us the money, then we're going to go out and make the product. They say the product's ready. You guys already have preview copies. And what the Kickstarter is purely for who wants a copy. And then once everybody's said, hey, I want a copy, and they get the money in, as soon as the Kickstarter ends, they send out the PDF versions right then, and then they immediately begin ordering the hard copy versions. So there's no risk. It's going to deliver. It's going to deliver immediately. And again, as stretch goals are hit, you will get goodies from the Kickstarter while the Kickstarter is still going. So, and I just see the mad cackling gleam and Russell, you're mad, I tell you.
It is insane. Insane.
Yeah, but, and I think I can only guess you've been pleasantly surprised by the response because, I remember on your podcast before it went, you were saying, yeah, I don't know how it's going to go yet. I feel kind of good about it, but I just don't know. And then, I mean, it blew it out the first day. You've been doing a lot of marketing and stuff like that. So where are you at now on it? Today is July 9th.
So I don't know what it is in dollars, but in pounds, it's just coming up on £75,000.
That's probably getting close to $100,000.
93,528 American.
Is that the biggest you've ever hit, Russ?
No. The Masterclass Codex was about £90,000. I don't know what that was in dollars. And then Just Dread was £148,000.
Nice. All right. Which I have copies of both. And I prefer the Masterclass's Gunslinger over the other Gunslinger stuff I've seen. So I like its Gunslinger a lot. The Masterclass Codex, if people are curious, is another thing that Ian World does is they have the Insider or the EN5 IDER.
That's how you pronounce it, yeah.
EN5 IDER.
Yeah.
It just rolls. Just plummets off the tongue. Yeah, it just trips off the tongue, as Peter would say. Or as you would say, I know y'all said that recently. Peter's usually the one that makes the bad puns, which is why I dearly love him. Anyway, it's a collection of character classes for 5e that have been fully play tested and are really cool. So check that out if people aren't aware of it. So anyway, all right. So let's get back to Mythological Figures and Maleficent Monsters, which runs through. What's your end date on that, Russ?
July 30?
Yeah, July 31. Yeah.
Okay. So this will come out next week, so there'll still be a couple of weeks for people to jump in on that actione. So here's the write-up, the blurb, as it were. Mythological Figures and Maleficent Monsters delves into these paragons of literature, fable, and folklore, from ancient Greece to Victorian England, deep as Transylvania to the high seas. You'll meet champions and thieves, pirates and knights, demigods and fae queens, ancient evils, and urban legends. Archetypal heroes meet exemplars of villainy like Blackbeard, Rasputin, Dracula, even Lucifer, the Lord of Hell. From Mike Myler's popular by request column, this 230-page epic compilation of over 100 legendary heroes, villains, and monsters brings these characters to life for the 5th edition of the world's oldest, not greatest, oldest. I'm sorry. I'll probably cut that out. That just struck me funny. World's oldest role-playing game, plus a foreword from James N. Ward, author of the original Deities and Demigods. And James N. Ward is, I would say, effusive in his praise. So he writes a really positive foreword. So
said, I looked very hard to find something critical to say about this book, and I failed miserably. Paraphrasing, which is like one of the nicest compliments I've ever gotten.
The Old Guard. Plus, he wrote Deities and Demigods.
Right.
So he wrote sort of a proto version of what this book is. I mean, your scope is much wider.
Oh yeah. We're not about the pantheons like that was.
Yeah. Right.
Well, I mean, there's Thor and Loki are in there. I think it's like halfway Deities and Demigods, halfway NPC Codex. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
I mean, it's a wide range. Let's look at the. I'm gonna take a trip, possibly a stumble, through the table of contents, if you'll indulge me.
Okay. I'll follow along with this.
Yeah. Ooh, the very hardback.
Yeah.
Russ has traveled into the future and brought back a hardback.
I have it right here.
All right.
It's very nice.
So, and I love in here you've got you go out of your way to give credit to the artists. And then I love the last artist entered is Pixabay.com. And I use Pixabay as well. So I just love that you gave them a shout out. Well, I guess you kind of have to, right?
Yeah. Well, that's just mainly for some sort of spot art and bits and pieces like that we've used.
Yeah. But I love that you listed them as an artist. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, you can't use it and not credit them, can you?
Right. That's true. Okay, let's look at this amazing table of contents here. So, Achilles, Aladdin, and I'm just jumping around here. Billy the Kid.
Yes, I think he has some connection to Arkansas. I was looking to see if there's anybody else that's like Arkansas. You don't have any Paul Bunyan stuff down there, I don't think.
Well, Paul Bunyan was close, but not. Paul Bunyan
for a second there, you said that, and because of your accents, when you said that, Mike, it sounded to me like you said pulp onion. Pulp onion?
Well, that is a creature for the next.
Ian's want me to do an accent in that. I can do that. Yeah, pulp onion in here. Over here in Arkansas.
You don't have any pulp onion down there, do you?
I want the pulp onion.
Pulp onion, yes.
My party is going to be attacked by angry pulp onions and drop bears, which I understand there's a little bit of disappointment on Mike's part that the drop bears didn't make it into this.
The next book. I've been promised the drop bears will be in the next book.
Well, listen, the way I see it is this. So, drop bears are a type of creature. This book is all single named individuals. So drop bears just don't fit in with the theme.
You pedant.
We haven't. There's other that we can't. Don't know. We cut other things like that out too. Things that were types of creature rather than individual.
I didn't care about those. I care about them.
Yeah, this one only matters because that's a reference to Paddington, right?
No. Drop bears are like there's an actual. I don't want to go too on a tangent, but like in the Australian National Museum, they have an entry for drop bears as if they're a real thing, but they're just like an Aussie joke that they play on tourists.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's like a snipe. So it's like a snipe.
Yes, it's like a snipe.
Okay. Yeah. For some reason, I thought the connection was.
Yeah. No, the Aussies, they tell you to watch out for the drop bears. It's hilarious.
You can tie a fork up in your hair or put some Marmite behind your ears to avoid the drop bears.
That's where the Marmite came from. Yeah. Okay. All right. I think that's what made me think it was but Paddington's marmalade.
Yeah.
Marmite.
Yeah.
So I'm way off. I'm coming back. All right. If you've seen Blade Runner 2049, I'm way off baseline. So I've got to get back on baseline here with you guys. Let's go back more through this table of contents, just kind of jumping around. You got Baba Yaga.
So a funny story about Baba Yaga there. I mean, Mike, you've seen this as well, haven't you? So one of the there's three really, really common comments that I'm starting to notice that people are making when they see like the ads for our book. And the most common one by far is people go, Baba Yaga, John Wick's in it. And I don't know whether they're joking or not. I mean, maybe they're just joking, or maybe their only association with the words Baba Yaga are from the movie John Wick. I don't know, but it happens so much. Like loads
You're probably
of them
getting
now.
A mix.
Yeah.
You're probably getting a mix. There's also a good Baba Yaga reference in. Is it the second Ant-Man movie where they've been given the truth serum and they're loopy out of their mind? And one of the guys believes in Baba Yaga.
And
the ghost. Yeah. And the ghost suddenly appears. He's like, Baba Yaga. And he gets up and runs off. But anyway.
Well, the other the other two questions that we get. So I've noticed quite a few people now saying, Maleficent, are you sure you didn't mean magnificent or marvellous or something like that? And they'll go, you better watch out. Disney might get you.
Yeah.
No, but
like they can't sue for an
a real word.
Yeah. Yeah, you're using it as an adjective.
I do words good. That was an actual word.
It's an adjective. Okay.
And then the last one is people keep going, is Jesus in it? I don't know why. People just keep asking that. I don't get it. The answer is no.
I guess maybe
the answer is no.
Maybe they think because Lucifer's in it,
I guess.
Jesus is in it.
We got Lucifer. We got King David.
Yeah. You got King David. I didn't even catch that. Where's he at?
He's up there. He's just David.
Okay. He's actually one of whether somebody's religious or not, he's a fascinating historical figure. So
also, he appears in 3 different religions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All of the
Judaic,
Abrahamic?
Christian, and Islam.
Yeah. So what do they call those? The Abrahamic or? There's a word for that. There's a word for that for those 3 religions. Anyway,
let's just pretend we knew that word.
Yeah, it's the religions. So, but yeah, you got Beowulf, who's one of my personal. I'm a huge Beowulf nut, and I really enjoyed the interview, Russ, that you did recently with the Beowulf RPG creators. So I'm looking forward to that. And I liked on a tangent. I liked how they treated the followers almost as items, or instead of having stats
it's a clever idea.
Follower,
like that. That needs to be an article, I think.
That's a really elegant way to handle that. So you got Confucius, Cthulhu, Cleopatra, Cerberus, Caliban, Brunhilde. I mean, there's you got Blackbeard, and then there's a sub entry for hair fuses. What is a hair fuse?
Do you want to take it, Russ? Or?
You can take that one, Mike. Go.
All right, so Blackbeard, who also, I want to point out, was not the most villainous of pirates. But anyway, he did like to strike fear into people's hearts. So one of the things he did was take, like, cannon fuses and tie them up into his beard and then light them before, like, boarding a ship to become this, like, fiery demon-looking dude.
Oh, I've got an idea. Shane, you should do that right now.
Well, if we hadn't have shot off all of our fireworks for 4th of July, I would, in the interest of increasing podcast entertainment. You've got Blackbeard. You got the Chupacabra. There's 2 different cryptids in here. There's the Jersey Devil. And,
there's more than 2. There's the Mothman, the Chupacabra, the Jersey Devil. Loch Ness Monster, I think, counts as a cryptid.
Yeah, it does.
Well, what's the definition of a cryptid?
It's like, does it exist? Does it not? Is it just like a rumor, folklore, and myth, or is it like a real thing?
It's basically any creature that falls under cryptozoology.
Because we've got a bunch
unproven.
We've got a bunch of those dogs, haven't we? We've got the black shark and we've got another one as well.
Q-Sith.
Yes, that's the one. Yep.
Well, here in America, in fact, I'm thinking about doing a show just on cryptids. I've been thinking about doing it for a while. We have one here in Arkansas called the Skunk Ape. It's like a Bigfoot that stinks, and I'm not making that up. Mike has lost it. Yeah, there's
in Pennsylvania, we get like because we're like right on the north side of the Dixon line, we get just like flavors of Southern mythology and folklore, but like Skunk Ape was not. I was not ready for Skunk Ape.
It's a thing. It's a thing. I've got a buddy who like wants to go skunk ape hunting really bad. So it's kind of like you remember the Legend of Boggy Creek, that movie, kind of make the Falk monster. It's kind of a Bigfoot type swamp creature. Yeah. It's like our version of that, except ours evidently stinks really bad. So yeah,
and you can't find it.
No, you can't find it. Well, people claim to have both seen it and smelled it.
You would think it would be easy to find.
Is it just that Arkansas smells very bad?
No, not really. It's just, but I guess, by goodness, if we're gonna have a cryptid, we're gonna skunk it up. I don't know.
I have a theory that Mike's a cryptid. I'm not really sure. If he exists or not. He's maybe a figment of my imagination. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a really good virtual avatar of a AI. Let's see. We got Daedalus, the sub-entry Wings of Icarus. Dorian Gray. Now, I heard a little bit of discussion between you two about this on your podcast, Russ. What was it? Are you saying Dorian Gray would be hard to play because as long as he has his portrait, you can't kill him? Or what was the point you were making there, Mike?
So there are 2 different kinds of builds in the book, right? There's epic monsters, which are just built like any other creature that you would, like a bear. You just build it. And then there are the mythological figures, and the mythological figures are built as if you were making a character to play in a game. There's like 27-point ability buy. They use classes and class archetypes, and there are much more restrictions on like how I can go about making it. You can't make Dorian Gray as a character just because his regeneration is crazy.
So you had to break the creation rules or the mechanics of 5e to make him. That's what it is.
Thus, he is an epic monster instead of a mythological figure.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, he's got his life-catching portrait.
Yep.
Dracula.
Yes. That is a vampire plus.
Vampire plus, as he should be.
Right.
I mean, Dracula does not mess around. Drona. Which I guess history or what? Where's Drona from?
I always get it mixed up if it's the language. Is the language Hindi and the religion is Hindu?
I'm not sure.
See, that's my problem. I'm always
for talking purposes. We'll say that, but we're open to correction.
Indian mythology,
yes,
like the continent of India.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's really cool. I'm not gonna.
No, go ahead.
There's a lot. Indian mythology is extremely intricate and complex, so I don't want to dip into it because I'm going to fall in.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they have. I mean, a lot of deities.
Yes.
And then, they have their own versions of demons and this and that. So, yeah. The Easter Bunny, going from Indian mythology to, I don't know what, just Western culture, I guess. The Easter Bunny. Let's see. Fafnir, Fenrir, Frankenstein's monster.
Skipping right past Elizabeth Bathory, perhaps the bloodiest murderer in all of history.
Really?
She sounds
like something
lovely.
like 80 to 500 girls, specifically young women. She just murdered, slaughtered them. It was crazy.
Oh, is she the one that would literally take baths in their blood to try to stay
that is
youthful?
not true, but that's what that's the person they talk about doing that. Yeah,
but if you're going to use her in D&D, then yes.
Yeah,
you absolutely should. Yeah. So, yeah. And then leading to the matchup of the ages, you got Genghis Khan, followed immediately by George Washington. Gilgamesh, who could be said to be the oldest epic narrative, I guess. I hear that a lot. Yeah.
And we have Enkidu too.
Okay, now what does Enkidu? I'm not familiar.
Enkidu is his beast man buddy.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
He likes to wrestle with him, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They wrestle. When they're not adventuring, they wrestle.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Gilgamesh was very much misogynist and would go around taking women as he pleased, and people were like, "Oh my God, please stop this! He's a good king, but he keeps doing this shit."
Right.
So they prayed for a solution, and the gods were like, "Okay, well, here's this beast man, and he'll tire Gilgamesh out." And instead, they became best friends, Batman and Robin type deal.
He will sublimate Gilgamesh's urges. Right. That is so funny.
Through the medium of wrestling.
Through the medium of wrestling. That is great. Okay, I've got to stop here because...
can we briefly mention John Henry? Because I think you guys will at least know about John Henry in Arkansas.
Oh, yeah, we're not done with the interview.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying we've still got time. No, I love John. I love the fact that John Henry and Paul Bunyan are in here. But I got to stop for a second on Grace O'Malley. This is another reason why I think this book is important. I'd never heard of her until this book, and her story is genuinely epic. So you're going to learn a lot about history and different cultures and fascinating characters and creatures from different cultures. But tell us just a little bit about Grace O'Malley. I mean, we could do a long show just on her, but tell us about Grace.
Okay, so she was born to a family of an Irish sailing family of, I believe, noble class, and basically acted as if any other man would in her time period, which is really difficult. And in addition to being just a really talented warrior and fighter and general, she confronted the Queen of England. And snuck a dagger into the court, ready to shiv the Queen of England. And
you got some courage, chutzpah, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
If you roll up into the court of the Queen of England, ready to stab her.
Yeah. And walked away with the Queen of England, giving her everything she wanted, and even naming part of Ireland after her.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
And she also she fell in love with a young woman, and her parents sent the young woman off to
Julie Daubigny. That's
am I getting somebody
who's
else?
Another amazing. Okay. I wish we all wish we could be this woman. So La Maupin, Julie Daubigny, was a French woman and an opera singer. Was an extremely talented opera singer and also a super talented swordsman. So she'd go around challenging dudes to sword fights, never lost. And then she fell in love with a young woman. The young woman's parents found out about it and were like, "No, send her to a convent." So Julie Daubigny goes to the convent and burns it down to hide her kidnapping, freeing of this woman. Yeah, and then she was a wanted fugitive, and she convinced the king of France to give her a reprieve because she's just so good at singing. She was amazing.
She was an opera singer / berserker. So that is and if I remember right, she's one of these people that. Just super fascinating. Did more probably in a year of adulthood than most people do in their entire lives.
Yeah.
But then she died at a young age of 33. Yeah. They need to do why do we not have a movie on either Grace O'Malley or Julie, how do you say it?
I think we have a book and a movie on Julie Daubigny, and it's called The Three Musketeers. But that might be a little reductivist. I shouldn't. No, it's not fair.
Oh, so they turned all of her adventures into.
I mean, it seems like that maybe she was an inspiration for some of that. Yeah, that's my feeling.
Yeah, but larger than life. So, all right, we got Harry Houdini, Grendel, of course, because we have Beowulf, so we got to have Grendel. So did y'all put? It doesn't look like you put Grendel's mother in here.
No.
Which leads me to what was the criteria other than it has to be an individual or a single creature for what made it in and what?
Well, it's basically a by request. So it's a compilation. I can talk good. It's a compilation of Mike's column, and Mike's column is a weekly by request column. So everything that's in here is something that a reader asked Mike to make.
Okay. So was there anything in here that you did just for the book?
The first few.
Easter Bunny and Santa Claus.
Yeah, the first few were as well, weren't they, before you started taking requests?
Yeah.
And then you... was there anything that, in review, you're like, now that I've had some time to think about it, I'm going to adjust this slightly before it makes it into the book?
Yeah, loads. Oh.
Like, half of the book. I was like, this is going to print. Okay, hold on. I need like 3 days to edit this and then rinse and repeat that like 4 times.
Yeah, so we altered a lot, didn't we?
Yeah.
Okay.
Paul Bunyan in the book is entirely different from Paul Bunyan on the website. Same thing with Fenrir.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are the two that specifically.
Some of them, like Achilles and Robin Hood, were tweaked quite a bit as well, weren't they?
Yeah.
In terms of ability scores. Can't think.
I'm surprised nobody's asked. Has anyone ever asked for Johnny Appleseed? Because you've got these other American mythological figures in there.
I mean, his Johnny Appleseed's really boring. He was just a guy who like wandered around throwing apple seeds.
I guess you could make the druid. Well, he's
like straight up. That's the story. It's done. Like,
he spread like.
So he's clearly a 20th level wizard, obviously.
He spread the. I think the apple tree through all of America or something like that. Yeah. So, but as long as we're on the subject, you got John Henry in here, who's a fascinating character and a fascinating. Basically, the story of John Henry is.
It's a steel driving man.
He's a steel driving man, but he's the underclass versus the future or
the Industrial Revolution.
Power, the Industrial Revolution, and he beat the steam engine, but he died.
Yes,
in doing so.
But we still do have the steam engine. So he didn't really beat it.
Well, I mean, like.
He drove more.
It was about a contest between him and this like steel engine that like laid down.
It was humanity versus whatever, and he beat it. But in doing so, he died.
Yeah.
So he drove more railroad spikes or faster than it did, or something like that. And then you got Paul Bunyan, Babe the Blue Ox, who's one of my favorite mythological figures. Big giant lumberjack kind of guy. Big giant, not just an ox. A blue ox.
So what's been fun for me is I barely heard of any of these people, and some of them not at all.
Yeah.
So I get to learn about stuff because Mike's introducing characters to me I've never heard of.
Yeah, and I mean I'm same here. I mean there's so much rich culture around the world that the average D&D player doesn't get exposed to unless you, or 5e player or whatever, doesn't get exposed to. Unless you dig into books like this. So I'm a huge fan, and I will never not be a huge fan of Tolkienish epic high fantasy D&D. Right? That's my wheelhouse. But I love all this stuff too. So it's so great to be exposed to it. Now, but yeah, Paul Bunyan, like him and Babe used to wrestle and like make mountains, and I think. He was dragging his axe behind him. Did it make the Mississippi?
Grand
or the
Canyon.
Pecos?
The Grand
Canyon. He made so it's just big one. I'll tell you what kind of trips me out about American folklore is, as a nation, we haven't been around that long comparatively to world history, but yet we have these mythological figures that are already kind of lost to you know what I mean? It's just fascinating.
We took the English habit of taking other cultures' things, and we just like ramped it up so fast and hard.
And just sprayed a new coat of paint on it. So, All right, you got Santa Claus. You have Santa Claus in here. You got, speaking of a character that changes per culture, and then you've got
St. George,
Easter
if you want
Bunny.
to talk about character that changes. I had no idea that St. George was everywhere. And I truly mean like everywhere except for like the continent of half of Asia and Africa. Like he was just everywhere.
And this is St. George in the dragon?
Yes, St. George the Dragon Slayer. Yeah.
Okay, isn't there like still a day in England that's set aside for that?
Well, he's the patron saint of England. It's St. George's Day, yeah.
Okay, so, thought so. So, yeah, I mean, that shows you how huge St. George is to English culture.
And then immediately after him, one of our sensitivity readers pointed out that like the equivalent for him in Middle Eastern culture would be Saladin, who also like was extremely proliferated everywhere, except there's more like definitive stuff to be said about Saladin and what he did, whereas St. George is like still very mythical and like the lore changes depending on where you're looking.
He fought a dragon. So.
Exactly, yeah. Saladin was just like this badass general who took back Jerusalem and stuff and like won several crusades.
Morris is like, let's get this straight. St. George fought a dragon. This is important.
But
there was a dragon and it was fought.
But it is a D&D book, and you need a real solid dragon slayer build in there, and that's what he is, isn't it?
Yeah. You've also got Arthur Pendragon, King Arthur himself, with Excalibur and Excalibur's scabbard. Now, one thing that's fascinating to me, I just read. I can't remember. It's one of the more famous books on King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table and all that. And, I got to researching Excalibur. And the interesting thing about Excalibur, there's not a lot of really established... I mean, we know what we call it in pop culture, right? It's this magic sword, this and that. But when you get down to it and research it, the actual name, what it is, what it would do, was there more than one sword? Did he give Excalibur to other knights and let them run around with it? There's a lot of fascinating history on Excalibur. So how did you sort through all that, Mike?
So the Knights of the Round Table, there are so many books and stories about the Knights of the Round Table. We think of them like here in America as like, the Knights of the Round Table. There's like Lancelot and stuff. There's the 8 of them sitting around the table. No, man, hundreds. Depending on what you're looking at, and like so many different authors over the centuries. So I tried to focus on the pop culture Excalibur because trying to do anything else would be a useless and pointless endeavor that would ultimately fail. So, yeah.
All right. So you got Arthur, you got Excalibur and Excalibur's scabbard. What's interesting about the scabbard? What did you do with the scabbard?
The scabbard makes him more resistant to damage. So if you've got the scabbard on you, you just take half damage from weapons.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Jumping back around, you got the Captain Nemo and his Nautilus. You got Merlin Ambrosius.
Yeah, talking Nemo and all the whole League of Extraordinary Gentlemen thing. One of my favourite things in this book is the Invisible Man. One of his abilities is just invisible. The Invisible Man is invisible. He's just there in the stat block. I just love that.
He's invisible. And did you give him any insanity?
No, I did not. I don't think I did. I double check.
Yeah, because in the book,
he goes nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, he goes nutso from the chemicals. Yeah.
Now, I do talk about that, but he doesn't have it in his stat block.
Okay, cool. But yeah, the book I read recently, and I've read others, but the one I've read the most recently was The Legend of King Arthur and His Knights by Sir James Knowles. So that was, and that's got a lot, that focuses a lot more on the knights than King Arthur. There's all these adventures of the knights. And those dudes can't go half a mile without getting challenged to joust. they're jousting constantly.
That's just how it is here in England. Look, if I just pop into the shops for a loaf of bread, I've got to make sure I've got my horse and my jousting stick with me.
Well, they go off like somebody will get kidnapped, and some knight will pledge to go rescue whoever got kidnapped. And he stops. They're like, we're hot on their tail. But then they'll have to stop like 15 times in joust. and it's like, the person you're trying to rescue is getting away. So you got Peter Pan, Prospero, Odysseus.
Peter Pan is a pretty crazy one. Did you know he's a psychopomp? He was like he shepherded souls to their afterlives.
I did not know that.
I didn't either until I wrote about Peter Pan and had to do a bunch of research on him. But yeah, he's freaky.
Well, I know that like in the original book is pretty different from the Disney cartoon. Yes. He's like a little 2-year-old baby or something, right?
So he's like born to like birds / maybe humans in a park or something. Yeah, 3 books are in the public domain, and his history is very different. And as is the character, in addition to being like a psychopomp, at one point he murders Tinkerbell, and then just completely forgets about it because that's Peter Pan. If he ever remembers anything, he starts to age. So like he's got this.
So he doesn't after he murders Tinkerbell, he doesn't turn to the readers and have them clap and think happy thoughts to bring her back?
No, at the end of the book, I think it's Mary who's like, what happened to Tinkerbell? And he's like, who's Tinkerbell? And then it's just like, boom, end of story.
End of story. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. It's Peter Pan's worth it for the price of love. Prospero. Now, we have to stop a little bit. This is one of my most fascinating figures from history, Rasputin. Oh, my goodness, this guy. Not only was he apparently like a warlock, but you couldn't kill him. Like, literally, in the historical record, the things they did to this guy to try to kill him are mind-boggling.
And not only that, he is also the subject of an amazing song by Boney M.
What?
Have you not heard it?
What?
After this, you have to Google Ra Rasputin by Boney M. You will not regret it.
Ra Rasputin.
Ra Rasputin by Boney M.
All right. So tell us the different ways. He was, of course, the advisor to the Russian royal family before the revolution.
Yeah. One of the kids had hemophilia, which is where your blood won't clot. So they were constantly dealing with that. And he showed up and was like, I can fix this. And apparently had some things that helped. But started to get more and more influence over the royal family to the point where like all their advisors were like, this is not cool. So they tried to poison him. They thought it worked. It didn't. So then they stabbed him a whole bunch. Thought it worked. It didn't. So then they like shot him in the head. Thought it worked. It didn't. So then they like clubbed him unconscious and tossed him into the river after tying him up. And I can't remember whether or not he survived that.
No, he did. That eventually got him.
That was the done?
Yeah, but I mean, the stuff they did to this guy, I mean, there was something really unusual going on. I mean...
He's Russian, I think.
Yeah, he just drank vodka.
Yeah.
He just, just before, just said, now see, that is the kind of cultural, we can't just assume that all Russians drink vodka, so he must have had his own way. But, yeah, it wasn't Soviet Russia, but in Soviet Russia, we do not die from assassination attempts.
Yeah.
So, but he's
so the
ahead.
challenge of that is a character build that will not die. And that's basically what Mike set out to do, isn't it?
I mean, if I was going to do it, I would give him something like the half-orc or the orc's ability or the zombie's ability. If you go to 0, if you roll a certain whatever, you get back up with 1 hit point. So, how did you handle it, Mike?
I built him as a mythological figure, and he is a fighter using the brute archetype, and I just kind of like poured as much as I could into his saves, because whenever you make a death saving throw, or any saving throw as a brute fighter, you get to add a bonus die. And if you hit over 20 on the death save, it still is treated as if you rolled a natural 20, which means you get back up with 1 hit point. So I worked it out. I think it was like there's a 15% chance anytime you drop him that like the next round he just gets back up anyway.
He just gets back up and smooths his beard out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's a crazy, if you go look at photographs of him, he's a crazy looking dude.
Yeah. No.
I mean, he's the very definition of like a dark monk kind of.
He was called the Mad Monk, wasn't he? That was his.
The Black Monk,
I think
Mad
you're
Monk.
right. Yeah. So, all right, you've got, let's see, Santa Claus, of course, Sherlock Holmes, and then you have an entry for Dr. John Watson.
It'd be weird to have Sherlock without Watson.
Without John, yeah. Sinbad. Why did a comedian make it in?
Oh, it's not the comedian Sinbad.
Yeah, I know. I'm joking. I love Sinbad.
John Wick.
But I'm fascinated with this because my idea of Sinbad is the old 60s movies with Harryhausen doing the stop motion effects and stuff like that. So what did you learn about Sinbad, building Sinbad?
A lot. Sinbad was like a major character in 1001 Arabian Nights, and there are multiple stories attributed to him or involving him. He tricked his way out of being enslaved by the Old Man of the Sea, which is like not quite a deity, but like sort of a deity.
Right. Minor deity.
He rode a rock, like one of those gigantic,
the
huge-sized birds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Blinded. So like, this is another thing you see. Like, I went to college, and one of my minors at college was the classics, which includes mythology. And you see a lot of similarities between different mythologies in different regions. So Sinbad did a lot of the things that you would see Odysseus having done. And we won't ever do Jesus, but if I did, I would point out that him and Horus and Buddha all have these like very similar tales of their exploits and mythical doings. So like when you look at Sinbad's like bullet point list of stuff, like half of it looks like Odysseus's, which is that's how myth works.
Tell you what is kind of weird about Sinbad is he's called Sinbad the Sailor, but he's clearly a really, really bad sailor. The number of times that guy gets shipwrecked. I mean, come on,
he's
give
Sinbad
up, guys.
The sailor man.
You clearly don't know how to sail.
He's Sinbad the Sailor Man, and he doesn't know how to sail unless he eats his spinach. So, one thing I want to touch on, the religious figures in here. I don't make any hide the fact. I mean, I'm a Christian. I mention it on my show sometimes. I personally don't have problems with people taking mythological or, religious figures and making stat blocks out of them because, like, especially for Christianity is so widespread that there's a secular perspective of the characters, and then there's the, like my perspective as a follower. So building Jesus would be really weird because you could do him as a deity because he was like the God man according to the Bible. You just have to put infinity in all of the stats, or you would have to build him based on the historical record of what he did, right? So it'd be really interesting to approach something like that. But I want to be clear that the Jesus is not in this book. Lucifer is, and we will talk about Lucifer here in a second because as the word came up many times in the Morris podcast about this book, Lucifer would be considered a badass. But one thing it's interesting, and I didn't even know the purpose of why you had reached out, but several weeks ago you reached out to me, Russ, and you said, "Hey, man, I know you're a Christian. What are your thoughts on, like your religion being in D&D and stuff like that?" And we had a good conversation. So, and I know you engaged some people to kind of review the stuff to make sure that, you were being like respectful and maybe considering stuff you hadn't.
Yeah, we used like a whole range of cultural consultants.
Right. Yeah. So but everyone has their own different approach to this stuff. Me personally, it doesn't bother me because I understand this is, it's through the lens of a fictional game system, and you're not trying to make religious documents or something like that. So, but yeah, we'll talk about Lucifer here in a second. But Morris mentioned something earlier that I want to make sure to pick up that thread. When you get into the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen type, there's several. You got Alan Quartermain, you've got Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, you've got Captain Nemo, the Invisible Man. Am I missing anybody else?
There's that woman whose name Elizabeth Harkin, but you could just use a vampire stat block for her because she was a vampire.
Okay, now was that John Harker's?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, yeah. Alan Moore does a lot with her in the League of Jordan.
Yeah, the comic is much better than the movie. If you've seen the movie and you thought, "Oh, that's cool," read the comics.
Oh, the movies.
The movie is just it's the Avengers and Victorian England.
It wasn't the Mario Brothers movie, Morris. It had redeeming qualities.
Hey, don't besmirch the Mario Brothers movie. I'm joking. I love the scene that says they get the Koopas dancing and they're like rocking back and forth. They're like, "Where's the Koopas?" The Koopas are dancing again, sir. Okay, anyway, moving on. Tell us about probably the stat-wise anyway, the most powerful entity in the book, and that would be Lucifer, the I forget what his tagline is.
Lord of Hell.
Lord of Hell. So tell us about Lucifer. He's like really super high CR.
Or Lucy, as I like to call him. Yeah.
Lucy. Don't catch him. Don't let him get to saying that.
So we got 3 CR 30 plus creatures, haven't we? We've got who have we got? We've got Cthulhu.
He's CR 30.
He's 30. Fenrir is 33. I want to say 33. Yeah,
that sounds right.
Yeah, and then Lucifer's 35. Yeah. So yeah, Lucifer's a fun one. I mean, Lucifer. Touching on what you were saying earlier about the whole religious side of it, Lucifer is, out of all the sort of that side of religion, the one that's been used in pop culture the most. I think there's like a DC WB TV series about him, and he's running a nightclub and helping the LAPD or something stupid like that. I don't know what he's doing.
Yeah, Lucifer, Satan, whatever you want to say, has a completely different secular existence outside. I mean, it's a creature, it's a character.
Yeah, he's been Al Pacino, he's been Robert De Niro. Yeah. You know, basically,
maybe the best Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah. So basically, Lucifer, you can pretty much do anything you want with him. You just pick your interpretation and run with it. And we kind of went with a big fiery demon in hell who can basically turn into anything and lie to you a lot. Was pretty much
There you go.
And it's not just that he can turn into anything, because there's a lot of stuff with change shape. It's that he gets everything when he changes shape. So, like, legendary actions, lair actions, stuff that is normally specifically, explicitly forbidden from change shape. Like, no, Lucifer gets all of it.
That's interesting. Yeah. So, now, is his stat... Anytime you went with a deity or a deity type of entity's stats, I think around 2nd edition D&D, they started saying, no, these are the avatar's stats. And you have to be on their plane of existence to actually kill them. So how did you approach it here in the book? Did you even get into any of that?
Cthulhu is the only one, and we don't quite get into it in the book, but you get, like, the book, what we provide is, like, the projection of Cthulhu, because Cthulhu's in R'lyeh, he's sleeping. You're not going to fight Cthulhu unless you go to visit him. And then, like, maybe later on we'll get to do all the other ones that I built up, but, like, the only Lovecraftian deity that's actually on Earth physically is Nyarlathotep.
The word that I cannot say.
So Cthulhu's stat block is a lot of, like, passive stuff going on. So because, like, he doesn't get extra action economy from legendary actions, which is what you normally get for high monster or high CR monsters. It's more like a whole bunch of, like, passive. Are you seeing him? Okay, you're going to go mad unless you make your saving throw. And how did you get within 100 feet? Okay, he's sucking out your life force, and yeah.
Right. Yeah, you can't fight an elder being.
I mean,
you just... Yeah, you can't, which I think that the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game does a good job of getting, you can't fight these guys. But you can fight the cultists.
Of course, this is D&D, so if you give it hit points.
Yeah, give it hit points, they're going to fight
and they're going to kill it.
Yeah, definitely.
That's just how it works.
Well, I do have to draw us down. It's already been a little over an hour now, or right about an hour. Wonderful conversation as always. If people haven't gotten the point of all the wonderful wide range, is the table of contents posted on the Kickstarter or anything like that? Yeah, but go to the Kickstarter, look at the table of contents. There's an amazing range of really cool entries. You could, like, it's one of those books also you could just read it and get the lore. A lot of fascinating exposure.
So that's one cool thing about it. Because my dad, he has no interest in D&D whatsoever, and he still wants this book. Yeah,
of all the
so he's not going to read the stat blocks, but he's going to read the descriptions.
But he's going to read the lore. Yeah, no, it's fascinating. I'm looking forward to it. I've backed it. You can get it in PDF. You can get it in hardcover. What are some of the stretch goals?
You get it in snazzy leather cover too.
Oh yeah,
snazzy leather made from the dreamlike hide of Cthulhu himself.
Yes, honest. It is.
Totally honest. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, what did you say? Stretch goals. So the stretch goals, what we're doing with those is, as you mentioned earlier, that we're giving those out during the campaign itself. So we've given out, it's one every £10,000, so we've given out 7 so far. And these are from our Villain Spotlight series. So each one it's kind of like one of the entries in Mythological Figures, but it's not a historical or mythological one. It's one of our own creation or a freelancer's creation from Insider. So it's a gold dragon, or a Sindrafax the Soul Eater, who's a necromantic red dragon, or Rosie Arkwright, who's just like this undead ragdoll. And so we've got a whole load of those to give out. Every time we hit a £10,000 mark, another one gets sent out straight away.
Nice. I love it. And then I want to remind people, as soon as the Kickstarter ends, the PDF version of the book, Morris will start sending out.
6 minutes?
Do something different.
Is that the record? 6 minutes?
Something like that, something like that.
And then the hardcovers and the leather bound will be printed at that time based on demand. So I have backed multiple Ian Publishing Kickstarters and have never been disappointed with either the quality of the content and the production values, nor have I been disappointed with how quickly it delivers. So, I can vouch for that from multiple instances. All right, last question, and then I'm going to wrap us up with the bad joke of the week. Is what do either of you have a favorite in this book? And I know that's hard. So you can also throw out a runner-up.
I did.
So, Russ, do you have a favorite?
I did like Lucifer. I like Fenrir as well, just because it's our Tarask, where we get to just say, take a back seat there, Tarask. This is how you do it.
Like this? Now that's a Tarask.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go with Fenrir. Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Mike? And I know it's like your babies. I get that.
Yeah, man. I mean, there are a lot of different ones, but
I think I know what he's going to say, but let's see.
I don't know. I've always really loved John Henry, and
he's a cool too.
Yeah, I'm from Pittsburgh, and we have this insane, work until you die attitude about everything. So I've always identified with John Henry.
I was correct.
And
John Henry.
My runner-up would be probably Don Quixote. Just because I'm glad that we managed to squeeze in this old senile knight.
Yeah, you said he's the only CR1.
Yeah,
right?
he's CR2. Sancho Panza's
Is
CR1.
he CR2? Okay. Yeah. So does he have one of his flaws or bonds is he must attack a windmill, or what? How did you?
I think it's just that he's delusional and does stuff like attack windmills, thinking they're giants and so on.
All right. So it's not just about
deluded is what it's called. Yeah.
Yeah, these characters, the way they're built, it's not just about min-maxing and making a devastating. No. There's just interesting characters in here. So I do recommend it. Okay, guys, here is, and folks, don't forget, it is Mythological Figures and Maleficent Monsters for 5th edition Kickstarter. Just search for Mythological Figures on Kickstarter. You'll find it. I'll also have it in the show notes at shaneplays.com. And go check it out. At the very least, I can't imagine any DM out there that runs with any regularity that wouldn't at least want the PDF, because there's a lot of good reference stuff in here. Anyway, all right, guys, here goes the bad joke of the week. Remember, the emphasis is on bad, so you're supposed to feel like you just got a whiff of a skunk ape. Okay,
right?
So it's okay.
Remorse.
It's okay to feel that way. All right. If a hippo rolls a natural 20 on an attack roll, does that make it a hypocrite?
You spent so long saying it, and that's the worst part, right? You're just.
It's supposed to be bad, fellas. It's supposed to be bad. All right. Thanks as always for your time. Russ, let's schedule some time to get back on in the future to talk about Awfully Chill Film.
Yes, please.
If you want to. And we shall do so. This will come out next week. So the 14th, 15th, somewhere around in there.
And the Kickstarter ends on the 31st.
Run on out there and get you some of that Mythological Figures and Maleficent Monsters for 5th edition Kickstarter action. Guys, take care. Your Kickstarter's already doing great, and I wish you nothing but continued finding.
Right, thank you, sir.
It's a great concept.
I smell that right now. It about knocked me over. There's been a skunk ape here recently. Do you smell it? Yeah. There's definitely been a big animal in here. These things have a nose on them. They got a really keen sense of smell. And I'm thinking that it caught wind of me. And just like all wildlife, they have escape routes. It's went right through here, always one step ahead of me. This is the story of my life.